Welcome everybody, good afternoon. My name's Howard, I'm Environmental Senior Consultant here at British Safety Council, and welcome along. So what I'm going to talk about is, before handing over to Claire, I'm just going to give you a bit of a technical background to the course, what the content is, and how we are delivering it from a structural point of view, and then I'll hand over to Claire, and she's going to give us some insight into how we are delivering our courses from a teaching and learning point of view. So first of all, I'd like to start off, I thought it makes sense to provide a bit of context in terms of what the course is about and where it's come from. So you'll be aware that IEMA changed their membership structure in June 2016, so June last year, and they introduced a new membership level of practitioner, which now sits between the existing associate and the full membership level. So a new practitioner, as a consequence of that, a new practitioner course has also been created and will be launched later on. But what we are now doing is offering the new revised Foundation Certificate in Environmental Management that now leads to the associate membership level. So as a consequence of the change, IEMA revised the specification and have made some changes in terms of the content from a course point of view. So that provides a bit of the context. I suppose what's interesting from a technical point of view as well is a little bit of change of emphasis in the course. The original foundation was very much focused on, let's say, legislation and policy and management systems, but now the revised content is much more emphasis, I think, on sustainable development and sustainability, and what organisations can, could and should do with respect to their sustainability performance. So there is much more emphasis on that particular topic in the course, and also there is specific reference to these sustainable development goals, these SDGs, that a number of corporate organisations have actually made explicit commitments to in their corporate strategies, and indeed the UK government has also made a commitment to moving the wider society and UK as a whole to be a much more sustainable society. So businesses need to be able to contribute to that overall strategic goal. So there's a lot more emphasis in the course on sustainability, and also running through the course is this idea of ethical thinking, the idea that we, both individually but also as organisations, need to think in terms of how we might not only impact on the environment, but the bigger social and economic impacts that we have. So perhaps we need to think more ethically in terms of our decision making. So that's a bit of a theme that runs through the new and revised course. Obviously there is reference to our legal requirements. So we have a section in the course on policy and legislation and some key environmental legal requirements we have to look at, things like environmental permitting, how we manage our waste, perhaps emissions to air discharges, and one or two other related environmental regulatory requirements, perhaps to do with energy consumption, for example. That in the context of national environmental policy for the UK, one of which is given as an example there, the circular economy. So we are trying to be much more resource efficient, you could say, if we create waste, perhaps we can do things differently to avoid waste or indeed reuse that material. So promoting a circular economy, and that's a policy, overall policy objective for the UK, one of many, I hasten to add. So we'll look at some policy challenges for the UK and how businesses can contribute. Within the course as well, there's reference to some key environmental management tools, such as environmental management systems, and in particular we do look at some of the core requirements of ISO 14001:2015. We don't necessarily go into detail, we haven't got time to go into the detail, but we do look at the key requirements of the standard, what businesses could do in terms of their management system development and obviously implementation. In addition to environmental management systems, we look at some other environmental tools as well, including environmental auditing, what is an audit, how we deliver it, again the skills and requirements of delivering a robust environmental audit process. Plus also we look at life cycle assessment, LCA, and also environmental impact assessment as well as tools that can support organisations be much more sustainable in their overall performance. Okay, some other topics in the course include reference to resource efficiency, so reducing waste, reducing our consumption of energy, water and raw materials. So we look at perhaps some practical ways of how we can improve our overall performance and what either individuals and indeed organisations can do to do that. And the last 3 bullet points there so make reference to, I was going to say challenges, but what we're trying to do is encourage both individuals on the course, but also to help them support the business in terms of improving, reducing their overall footprint, as it were. So we want individuals through the course to appreciate this idea of life cycle thinking. Life cycle, taking a life cycle perspective, is now a specific requirement of 14001. So if you have environmental management systems in place, we need an appreciation of what we mean by life cycle, and also thinking about perhaps not just where we get our raw materials from and how we make our products, but also what are the potential impacts of the product in use and also at the end of its life. So we try and encourage individuals on the course to take this much more broader life cycle approach to environmental management and sustainability. And the final 2 bullets there, again, there's a nod and a wink here to 14, but the idea is that not only do we need to think about how we impact on the environment, but also how perhaps the environment impacts on the business because of the changing environment. And there's a nod and a wink there towards things like climate change, for example, the threats, the risks presented by a changing environment. And obviously the context there is we want to try and make businesses much more resilient and less vulnerable to those external threats. So that's some other technical content of the course there. Just a very brief summary in terms of what the course actually is. So it's a 5-day course. 40 guided learning hours is specified in the spec, in the syllabus. So we have to, that equates to 5 days, approximately eight learning hours a day. Plus, obviously, we'll give you a bit of homework as well. But the idea is to try and give individuals the level of awareness, understanding, knowledge and skills to hopefully help improve the environmental performance and sustainability performance of the business. Obviously, in terms of what it will also deliver, will give the relevant people the knowledge and skills to go beyond compliance. I think perhaps the old foundation course is a bit more risk-based, but now we're trying to push organisations to be much more sustainable and help the overall sustainability performance. And just for reference as well, IEMA have benchmarked this at Ofqual level 3, so it is a recognised, internationally recognised certificated qualification by IEMA, and will give individual members obviously associate membership of IEMA so they can progress through their membership levels. Okay, so as I'm trying to, whoops, apologies for that, my slides show froze on me then. Let's go to that one there. There we go. Just a quick overview of the course structure and how we are delivering it. So day 1 we go introduce the candidates to this idea of sustainability if they're not aware of the principles of it already. And you can see there just one of the images. We look at some products for the course as well. So what is the sustainability performance of a particular product? And also at the bottom of page of day 1 there you can see reference to the Sustainable Development Goals. So the idea of day 1 is to introduce the idea, concepts of sustainability, what it is, what it means, and what organisations could do to support those wider sustainability objectives. Day 2 we go back to a bit of basics, go back to our almost a school days as it were, but we need an understanding of ecological systems and processes and how it is that we impact and perhaps disrupt those natural cycles and natural systems. So we look at pollution, air quality, water quality, and the impacts associated with our emissions, discharging the waste on the natural environment. Day 3, we look at policy and the law. So again, there's a bit of session on what are main key legal requirements and what's the policy framework we have to operate within. And then later on that day, we'll look at some measures to perhaps control our releases and identify some opportunities and mitigating measures to reduce those impacts. Day 4, we visit our environmental management tools, such as environmental management systems, life cycle assessment, and environmental impact assessment. And finally, on day 5, not only do we need to know some practical ways of reducing impacts, but also encourage our colleagues to behave differently. So it's a bit on managing change and how we can facilitate an organisational change process. In the afternoon there, you'll see there's reference to a mock exam. So yes, we will on the Friday afternoon have a little practice session, but through the course as well, on every day, at the end of every session, we look at some example questions to try and support the individuals understand what the assessment might look like at the end. And also you'll see reference there to a little bit of a competition. So during the course as well, we ask candidates to prepare for a presentation on a particular environmental product with the overall aim of demonstrating how we might improve the sustainability performance of that particular product. I'm going to hand over now to Claire, who's going to take us through how we are offering the course from a teaching and learning point of view. Over to you, Claire.
Thanks very much, Howard. So now we've got an understanding of what the course content is because of the syllabus, and you've seen on screen a little glimpse of how we've turned it into an exciting and engaging course for our learners. You might also like to know about how we actually teach it. All our courses at the British Safety Council are actually taking a student-centred active learning approach, and rather go into lots of detail explaining to you, I'll actually give you a little demonstration of what that is like. So here we are on day one, and you're sat at a table, and in front of you is a packet of chocolate biscuits, and the tutor would say to your team's got 10 minutes to decide what impact the life cycle of this chocolate bar might have on the environment, society and the economy. Off you go. And your team then can spend that 10 minutes investigating in any ways that you think are appropriate and obviously trying to come up with the answers. And what we're doing through providing an activity like that that's challenging, fun and very relevant to the rest of the course is we're activating students' prior knowledge. We're taking them from a journey from what is known and familiar towards what is unfamiliar and what needs to be learned. And so once the 10 minutes are up, the tutor will then go through with the students what they've discovered and what their thinking is and talk to them about what the life cycle stages are. And as you can see coming up on screen, this is the IEMA version of the life cycle stages. And for some students, they might have learned it previously and they might have started with design before acquisition of raw materials. So it's very important that we find out what students already think and understand and build on that, and we correct in terms of the exam any information that they've got that is not going to help them succeed. And so the tutor will give their expertise in at that moment, and then also this activity will lead on to students' understanding of other important principles and information on the course. As Howard indicated, it leads into understanding of how megatrends are created, how sustainability is then going to be achieved, and also later on into management tools. So as we said earlier, the course consists of lots of different challenges that students are given in order to enable them to learn new information in ways that are relevant both to the real world and to their needs in their own businesses and of course to the exam questions. So why are we taking this active learning approach? Well, it's because of the way our brains are actually arranged, and in front of you is a slide that gives you an image of the forest of neurons that are in place in your brain. And each one of these neurons, as you can see, has a network of extensions called dendrons and axons, and these actually carry the information to and from the neurons where information is stored in your brain. And as Professor Rinston's quote says, learning is about rearranging the way that our brain works. As you learn something, these cells actually change their connections. They grow new extensions and they make different connections with each other. And you've got 100 billion of these inside your brain. And so based on the latest neuroplastic research, what we're doing at the British Safety Council is ensuring that we rearrange your brain in the most effective way possible to help you succeed in your exam. So this is our learning journey that we take you on. We start off, as I explained, with activating the prior knowledge. And as you can see in the diagram just beneath the APK sign, when your brain is first activated, those little orange dots which represent neurons firing can be randomly connected. because this is a new topic area perhaps, and you've got little bits of information that you already know. And so what we do is we activate it, and we then attach the new learning to those activated sites, and we help your brain start to organize itself ready for retrieval later on. So we're developing your expertise in a topic, and those schemas of brain neurons become organized. And what this does is it helps the information become embedded. And we also then want to, of course, ensure that this information you've started to store is actually usable. So through our course design and the activities we do, we ensure that it moves into your short-term memory, then across into your long-term memory, and you are able to retrieve it efficiently, both in terms of what you'll have to actually do in the exam, and of course because when you get back out of the classroom into your job, you're going to want to be able to use it in real life and in a number of different contexts. So as I've explained, we're really relying very strongly on neuroplastic research, and one of the things the course is designed to do is to take learners from what's already familiar to them, from specific examples which they can understand, from things that are concrete, on a journey so that they can then understand concepts and products and ideas that are unfamiliar, move into a very strong ability to generalize and also to deal with abstract concepts and ideas. And this is based on the best practice teaching that has been developed over the last 50 years in education. Back in the 1970s, you would have sat in a classroom and you would have listened to somebody lecturing you, and within 20 minutes, the research shows, you would have probably forgotten most of what you'd actually heard. In those days, it was a very tutor-centered experience. You sat there passively learning. The tutor was the sage on the stage. They did most of the talking. You sat there and listened. The tutor asked questions and you answered them. And the contextualization was all familiar to the tutor and controlled by them. So here we move forward to 2017, and what you will experience in a British Safety Council training classroom is student-centered learning, where you are actively learning through activities like the one that I've described. The tutor's role is very much still your source of expertise, but they now take a role which we call guide on the side, and through that they listen to students talking and thinking and problem solving, activating their prior knowledge, and then they very much relevantly and appropriately insert the new learning at the right time and in an effective way. Through this active process, the students and the tutor are both asking questions and answering them. And we obviously have already explained that contextualization is familiar to the students before we introduce the unfamiliar. So as I've explained, hopefully, our lessons are very much organised to ensure that students are successful, and we want them to be as engaged and to be as engaging as possible.